As you guys all know, solar industry is changing, build is changing, everything is evolving, so much more coming to the table. And we have a lot to offer, whether you're speaking to a homeowner, whether you're speaking to a recruit, just so much is going on. So what I wanted to do specifically for this call, and like I said, I'm glad that this can be a little bit, more intimate, is really open it up to see if there's any specific questions, and more of a Q&A session on not just solar, but all of the home essentials that we actually have. Obviously, I know I'm more of a expert, I guess, as you want to say, in the solar industry, which is cool. But, obviously we have a lot of other stuff to offer as well. So I'll definitely add in and chime in where I can, to help everybody out. But yes, Miss Wynn.
So now that it's November,
Yeah.
okay, um, and we're getting close to the end of the year, and the end of the season of right now, the solar rebates, right? Um,
Mhm.
and you've pivoted in this area before. How would you recommend that we pivot in terms of what's next, since you've kind of been here before, being having owned your own solar business in the past? And I'll
Oh,
put myself back on mute. Thank you so much.
yeah, no, not yet, not yet. When you say, sure, I understand. Pivot to what and
I'm
from
not
what?
talking about how to, when things shifted within the solar industry.
Um,
Like there were different incentives before, and then those incentives changed.
mhm,
Um, I know that we definitely be pivoting with private products and services. That's not my
mhm,
question, but my question in terms
mhm.
of for those who still want to have um, solar panels put on their homes, and they may not have those same level of incentives as they did in the past. That's what I mean by pivoting.
Got you. Got you. And yeah, that's a great question. And I believe I talked a little bit about this earlier on, or maybe on a few other calls in the past. But there was a lot of shakeup when it came to the incentives going away, and all of that jazz that took place. But the reality is, when we speak to a homeowner, right? If you speak to a homeowner today, that homeowner may not know anything about the incentives going away, right? So I wouldn't even mention it to them. And there's a few different ways to go about this, right? And I said I was glad that this was intimate, so maybe I don't want to go against what anyone else says because I know there was a different point of view earlier uh, that was mentioned. But it depends on the client that you speak with. Um, if they're aware that the incentive is going away, then you can use that for your benefit. If they don't know that it's going away, then if you kind of stress on it too much, then you can kind of you can lose the deal by focusing on that solely, right? So and sorry if my voice sounds a little raspy. I'm getting over a little cold or whatever, but um, yeah, so once again, there was a call earlier this morning, and it was suggested to focus on using urgency with getting and booking the appointment. Once again, that's good if the homeowner is aware that the incentives are taking place, right? If the homeowner is not aware and that's not a main decision maker for that homeowner, then it's probably best not even to kind of focus on that, because, like I said, you can make the homeowner a little anxious, give them a little anxiety about the overall process. And once again, it could kind of have a negative effect on you because no matter what you do when you speak to a homeowner, they're gonna look at you as somewhat of a salesperson, right? So if you are kind of like rush, 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 right, and there wasn't even aware of it, once again, obviously, as you're trying to help them. but that's not necessarily how they're going to take it. Now, I say this from a standpoint of I've dealt with quite a few clients over the last couple of months, and there's been clients who've called, reached out to me, and they're like, listen, we want to do it now. We understand that the incentives is going away. So in that situation, I can put some pressure on them because they brought it to me. There's some other clients who have no idea about it, and I have to kind of be careful about how I implement that in, because once again, it's going to sound like a sales pitch. No matter how many times I tell the homeowner, listen, this is not about me, this is all about you. Unfortunately, sometimes, most of the time, they're not necessarily going to hear that. They're just going to hear, you're trying to make me move forward, you're trying to get me to go solar, and I may not want to do it. So I always take the consultative approach with, hey, let's just sit down, let's see if it makes sense for your household, and then we'll go from there, right? And then, during the consultation, I might say, hey, some of these incentives are going away at the end of the year. So it's a little bit of urgency, but I want them to feel that urgency instead of me forcing that on them, if that makes sense. But yes, that's definitely a good question. And as we pivot into the new year, with solar, I would highly recommend everyone, not to get too shaken up about what's going on. As far as the incentives and everything like that, got a chance to speak to President JC Rangel last week or so. And putting new programs and new systems in place to really help those homeowners who really want to take advantage of solar. And now it's funny because I know I've mentioned this on different calls before in the past, that around the new year or this season, and maybe I'm answering questions that I had instead of questions that you guys asked. But yeah, anyway, that and around this season, like things start to slow down a bit. Well, it's like yes and no, because remember, in the network and build network, there's people who are getting started every day, right? And as these people get started, they may not know of all of the stuff that's happened prior to. So they're just referring business in, right? So what I would recommend, for those who've been around for a while, is just kind of have that same starter mindset, with your own clients, right? And don't get overwhelmed with all of the stuff that's going on and all the stuff that you're hearing, because it could either push you forward to make more appointments happen, or it could kind of like slow you down to say, you know what, well, this is going away and it's not going to make sense anymore, and this, that, and the third. Right. So hopefully that answered your question, as thoroughly as I could.
Yes, thank you so much, Idris.
Absolutely. And I know James has his hand raised as well, but I think this is probably going to be a question that comes up. And right before we get to you, James, I just want to ask, because I know James has solar, I know Ms. Johnson has solar as well. And Ms. Johnson, you got solar last year, right? And
Yeah,
you did your
I just completed my first year.
awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations. And you, let's see. So did you do like the tax situation this year?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So if you could, right? When you did your taxes, what documents did they ask for?
There's a federal form that you get from IRS .gov.
Mhm.
It's a solar energy form. I can't remember the number of it right now, but it's just a single schedule. It's just a simple piece of paper that was
Mhm.
added to, and it asks for the cost and, whatever. It's very, very simple, one page.
Yep. And did any of those documents ask for the install date?
I don't remember them asking for the install date.
They just asked for the initial contract, or maybe the
Yep.
contract or the start date. So I want everyone to keep that in mind. That's been my experience
Right. I
for the
hear you.
past couple of years. Right. So once again, you're going to hear different things, right, about,
Hmm.
different situations. That's why I wanted to ask Ms. Johnson specifically, what did they ask for when you did your taxes? Now, I'm not a tax accountant, right? But usually there is no install date. There's only the start date from the contract. So once again, I am not a CPA. I am not a tax accountant, but obviously I've been through these situations before. And sometimes there's a gray space where a lot of homeowners are still able to take advantage if they have the contract date prior to the end of this year,
Mhm.
right? What was also mentioned earlier, and this is obviously true, is that in certain states, the time frame and timeline vary, right? So in some states, it may be a 3 to 4 week time install time frame, and then in other states, it may be 3 to 6 months, right? So it kind of varies. So you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver that with the client. I would say, and I would recommend just getting all clients in before the end of the year is over, and then letting the chips fall where they may. Right. So thank you, Ms. Johnson, for adding that input. Hopefully you guys caught that and it didn't go over your head. But I think well, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yes, Mr. Meadows.
Hey, you just thanks for the training tonight. So thinking about your last question about what IRS asked for when you put it on your taxes, we did the same back in December of 24 was our install, and
Hmm.
I only remember them asking the cost of the project, I believe, because that determines the amount, but I don't remember seeing an install date, and I was actually shocked by that. Um, in terms of us having 60 days till the end of the year, in the Colorado market, is it even realistic to expect that an install would happen before the end of the year, with the weather the way it is and that type of thing? So I guess I just want to move forward with continuing to get some contracts, consultations done, and like you just said, let the chips fall where they may in terms of that. So that's my goal really for the next 60 days is just to get in front of as many people as possible and not really worry about the tax. Because I had also heard that it was decreasing, it wasn't totally going away. And but I asked this morning about that, and somebody said no, it's totally going away. So who knows, right? They're not going to make the tax laws for 25 until 26. So anyway, that's my feedback.
Absolutely. And as you said, just to reiterate, my biggest focus would be to get people in, right? If you get people in, and when I say get people in, obviously these are people who want to go solar, right? So if you get as many people signed, right? They signed the dotted line, then we'll figure out what takes place after the fact. Here's another interesting thing, right? So I did a consultation. I think it was today's Monday. Actually, it was yesterday. I did a consultation yesterday, and it always gets a little interesting when we're talking about the incentives, right? Because I got to be careful, once again, not to overpromise and underdeliver, right? So this homeowner actually knew that the incentives were going away. So they were questioning me a lot about it. And even as we took so obviously the deal made a lot of sense with the incentives. But even when we took the incentives away, right? Even when we took the incentives away, the homeowner was still saving $100,000 over the next 25 years. So I want us all to understand that whether the incentives are here or not, the solar is still beneficial to the homeowner, right? So when people ask me nowadays, hey, how do you feel about the incentives going away? What's funny is that I actually say that not that I'm glad, right? But once as the solar industry evolves, it's important that the solar industry can stand on its own 2 feet and not have to rely on governmental incentives, right? Solar is now becoming more socially acceptable, where people are seeing and understanding, okay, solar makes sense. So if we're not reliant on what the government is giving us, and then we can now just point, the industry will shift from so many different levels. I know you guys have heard that, or maybe from JC, that, dealer fees are high, and, there's a lot of overpricing in the marketplace. So all of that is going to start to shift and change when the 30% goes away, which is good, because it allows the real consultants to thrive. And most people who are just here to make a buck will not be around as much, right? Because once again, they were reliant on that, and not the benefit of solar overall, right? So it's a benefit overall. But just like most things, sometimes it takes some time for people to see the benefit, as things kind of like evolve and grow. So hopefully that answers, that question. But thank you for that input as well. Yeah, I would just get as many people in as possible and kind of just focus on playing offense, right? You guys have heard me say this before, but there's a lot of projects in the pipeline. I have a whiteboard, so you may see me look up from time to time. It shows all of the projects here. But sometimes it's, you have to play defense, but right now is the time to play offense. Just getting deals on the books, right? I can figure out all of the extra stuff, let's say in January, right? But I can't help anybody take advantage of anything if they're not even on the books, right? If that makes sense. So once again, just a specific type of mindset I would go into, as we continue to end out the year strong, right? Well, the thought process you don't want to have is, hey, this is ending. I can't do anything about it. So let me just sit back and wait and not do anything and not try to help anybody, right? That's not beneficial for the client. That's not beneficial for you. It's not beneficial for anybody, right? So once again, hopefully that helps, and thank you, Mr. Meadows, for uh, adding that comment in as well. And I'm sorry. Once again, I just want to make sure, I don't want this to be conflicting information. I was on the call earlier as well. I heard what was said. So not to conflict with anything that was said earlier, but there's obviously different points of view, and I'm just giving mine. Miss Wynn?
I have one more question about,
Yes.
so with the lease, there's no, because I have a client who had an install and it was a
Mhm.
lease. So
Okay.
does that have any bearing on tax incentives or no?
No, not at
Okay,
all.
okay.
Yeah, no. Well, it doesn't have any bearing on the federal income tax credit, right? So the federal is the biggest federal tax credit for solar. If you're in certain states where there are state incentives, it won't have any bearing on it, but the homeowner will still get the state incentive with the lease as well, right? Once again, depending on which state it's in. But for the federal, no, none at all. So just to double back on that, as well as the industry starts to evolve, as I mentioned, a lot of people will start to lean more towards the lease, right? And it's a good situation because it could be good. Well, it's a good situation because typically the lease is a little easier for people to understand and grasp. And you're not telling people to take out a 30, 40, 50, $60,000 loan, right? Now, what that actually means is that there should be a lot more deals being closed, right? When you have to sit down and tell someone, hey, solar is this, but it's for $50,000 and you got to take out a loan for it. Once again, yes, it makes sense, but it's still a $50,000 loan, right? So sometimes people have to think twice about that. When you say, hey, we're going to be exchanging your utility bill from $200 to $120 or $150 with solar, and it's a lease, and you don't have to take out a loan, that's a much easier conversation to have overall, right? So that's probably what will take place in the future, just naturally. Um, So yeah, hopefully that answers that question as well. Yes, Miss Johnson.
Yeah, so thanks for all this information. It's great information, Idris. Really appreciate you for it. And that's the point that I wanted to bring forth. I've been able to share solar with a number of people, and if I had 10 people, maybe three of them were even eligible for the federal tax incentive. There's so many people out there that the federal tax incentive wouldn't even have anything to do with them, because maybe their annual income doesn't warrant it, or sometimes they're elderly people and a lease would be better. So I don't really worry about the federal tax incentive at all. And then like in certain states there are other incentives that you can offer people. Like when I find a prospect, I attempt to do a little bit of research, just um, superficial research about what's available in their area, and there's so many other things that are available for people to go solar, besides the fact that they're going to save money. In the long run they're going to save money. And also, like you said, um, for the federal tax incentive, it's has to be like a purchase. They have to purchase it. So either they're going to pay cash or they're going to take out a loan that's 25 years at interest, which increases the overall cost. So that all of that has something to do. But the bottom line is that solar is good. Solar is good for the planet. It's good for the individuals. It's good for their homes. It's just good for people. So once we understand that solar is good, then we don't have any problem sharing it with people. And don't worry about all of the obstacles or the challenges, because solar, bottom line, is good. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you adding that input. And you're right, it's funny. I operate with that same mindset, right? Solar is good no matter what, right? Sometimes you have a client and the situations or the terms aren't perfect, right? When I say terms, the client I had yesterday, their offset was 50%, right? It's actually 47% to be specific. So most salespeople will look at a deal like this and say, "Oh, well, it's not 100%, so it's not going to be beneficial for the homeowner, so I don't even want to do it." Or the homeowner themselves may say, "It's not 100%, so this is not good." Once again, 50% of a solar system is better than 100% of your utility. Right? So what I explained to the homeowner is that every year when your rates go up, it's going up 100% of that bill is going to be going up. With solar, 47% of that bill is going to be fixed, right? So what would you like to do in the future? Because you already know it's going to go up because you said it's been going up over the past 20 years. So you already know it's going to go up in the future. So obviously solar would make sense. And that's exactly what it did. And that's exactly why she moved forward. Right. So, my concept when speaking with a homeowner, regardless, is that solar is good no matter what the situation or the outcome is. I've helped homeowners with solar systems with, I think the lowest was maybe a 33% offset, right? So it's always going to be beneficial for the homeowner no matter what. It's just more about how it's explained. And as Ms. Johnson mentioned, there's other variables, right? I know I did a training on this before, but there's other variables besides just savings, right? So depending on what it is for that homeowner, that's what we can discuss, right? So yeah, there's so many benefits to going solar, not just the savings. But once again, it's different for each and every homeowner. So thank you, Ms. Johnson, for adding that a comment as well. Yes, Mr. Meadows.
Sorry, driving interest, but
No problem.
I wanted to talk about the mentor mentee relationship and kind of a pressure I was putting myself under. Uh, we have the numbers, you get 3 sales, then you move on and you get 5 on your own, and then you become a mentor, right? And
Yeah.
my wife always accuses me of hearing things from other people more than herself. Um, and so I did that with you, Idris. I know you've advised me to kind of slow down and not be so anxious to get out there on my own.
Mhm.
And I heard that this morning as well. And so I appreciate that, hearing that from all of you guys as mentors, that we're not under that timeline of 3 sales and then go get it. It's when you feel comfortable doing your presentations. And I think you guys know when we're feeling more comfortable doing presentations. So I just wanted to speak to that since we're a small, intimate group tonight. Um, I appreciate not having that pressure and having your continued support as well as other mentors throughout the rest of the year here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny because I heard that comment earlier as well. And like you said, I think we may have spoken about it, but I try not to personally overstep where someone wants to grow into, right? I may have my opinion, but I don't want to overstep. However, what I will say is it may not make sense to put yourself in a position to do something that obviously that you may not be ready for, right? Because the reality is, and it was mentioned earlier by Mr. McHenry, if you do a deal on your own and let's say it doesn't go perfectly, then that homeowner, if they were looking for solar, then they're gonna look at somebody else or another company, right? And now this is a potential deal, 3,000, 5,000, $6,000 deal that could have been split, but it was done on your own, right? Um, Now that's one perspective, but another very, I would say, even more better perspective that I would have is that um, in order to close solar deals, I would say you have to be immersed in it, right? Because there's a lot of moving pieces constantly. Right. So, right now there's a new program that came out that we're using. And like I have to get used to it myself. But this happens pretty frequently, right? And I have to learn it myself. Now, it would be difficult for me to teach you something that I haven't even learned myself, right? I believe that was a conversation that me and Ms. Johnson was having one time when she was looking to do her deal on her own. I didn't know the system to teach it, right? And it's because something just changed. So, what I love about the process or the platform that Bill has is that you can learn it on your own, but it may make it easier for you to just pass the deals along, right? I used to, it's funny, I tell a few people on my team this, but you could actually make a six-figure income by passing deals along, right? Like you don't have to learn it at all. And yes, that's a passive way of doing it. But to learn all of the ins and outs of solar, like I said, I hate to put it out there where it makes someone a little frightened, but it's a lot. Right? It's a lot to manage, there's a lot to see. You gotta kind of be up to date. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot. And it's like if you know, and if you don't know, like once again, because it's an intimate space, there's been people who've come into build who I've been introduced to, and I'll hear like, oh yeah, this person, XYZ person knows how to sell. And then I'll work with them. And then as I'm talking to them, I'm realizing more and more that they have no idea what they're doing at all. Right. And once again, they were introduced to me as someone who has 2, 3, 4 years of experience. So if this is happening with these type of people, then learning it from scratch is gonna be kind of complex. I always use this example when I got started in solar. First, I was working for Tesla, right? Solar City at the time. And Tesla bought them out. And I went for my first 5 to 6 months without closing a deal. And that was my job. It wasn't like a 1099 business or something on the side. That was my job, right? So it took, and I was immersed, right? I was eating, sleeping, breathing, solar, training, and all of this. And it took about 5 to 6 months for me to close my first deal. So this is why I say to kind of learn the process and everything, you kind of need to be immersed. And there's mentors, right? Here's a bigger way of thinking about it. Is mentors that would rather send their deals out to other people than close them themselves. I'm saying that in itself should say something. And I'm seriously, right? There's some mentors that don't close their own deals on purpose. Not that they can't, but they would prefer not to deal with the hassle, right? So that should say something in itself, as far as like the overall process of how solar works. Um, you know, yeah. Once again, hopefully that answered the question.
Well, Aegis, I hope you know we appreciate you, man, as a mentor. You've done a great job leading us so far, and I have no problem doing the next 30 deals with you as my mentor and making the money that way. No, we appreciate all you do, man. All you do behind the scenes. Great job.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Miss Johnson.
Yes, you are. I agree with James, Mr. Meadows, that you are mentor extraordinaire, pinnacle mentor. But I remember in the very beginning when I first became a part of Build, and our flagship product was solar,
Mhm.
and that was basically all we had. Well, I was eager and excited to move towards mentorship. I really was. And I got my deals in. I started studying all the certifications and doing all of this stuff. And then when it was time to begin to attempt to strive
Mhm.
to do my own deal, it was really quite overwhelming. I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you, it was quite overwhelming, and I hadn't even gotten into the meat of it yet,
Mhm.
where you had to follow the process to the end and problem solve the numerous challenges or delays that can occur in a single project. And then I realized that, hey, why am I attempting to do this and spend my time and energy on this, especially as Build began to evolve and we began to have more services? So was I now going to become a mentor or an expert in every single one of them? I said no, that didn't make sense. It really
Mhm.
didn't make sense. Build is set up perfectly for us to be able to earn some significant income by passing the ball,
Mhm.
by being a team player, by dribbling and pass.
Mhm.
And so now uh, I have to tell you, I'm not really even interested in becoming a solar mentor
Mhm.
because I can focus on so many different things. When I meet an individual out there in the community, I can go into assessment mode of what I can offer this individual that we have. Can I offer them alkaline water? Can I offer them internet? Can I offer them solar? Can I offer them Zeta? Can I
Mhm.
offer them now, trading?
Mhm.
And so with so much to offer, I no longer needed to be the master of one trade. I could be a jack of all trades and still attract significant income.
Mhm.
And so that to me, you know, let's use the experts that we have. And like I said, you're a pinnacle mentor. I can't wait, and I'm super excited for your upcoming licensing in Maryland.
Mhm.
So you know, team, let's just go for it. We have everything that we possibly need here. and we just need to take advantage of everything. Thank you for allowing me to share, Idris.
Absolutely, absolutely. And once again, appreciate that input as well. Really do. And I'll say this, I know Miss Wynn mentioned, my background, and once again, I'm watching the company evolve. I'm watching the industry evolve. And we're evolving as well. But I had the same sentiment that you just had, Ms. Johnson, because I also looked into being a mentor for water, for the security, for the internet, for the mobile. And I'm like, yeah, this is a lot. Right. I've sold internet before in the past. All right. So I'm familiar with it. But I asked myself, do I really want to learn that again? And do I want to focus on that? Right. It's like I already have a lane. It might be best for me to just stay in that lane. But I do want to grow and evolve with the company, obviously. And, I think moving forward, like possibly these, I'll speak with Mr. Bean, but these calls may be more like home essential focused for all of the different services, where we can add more value. Because once again, if you see, and there's going to be more services added on as well. But if you look at these services, right, these are all great, right? Solar doesn't need to just be the one that's promoted the most. All of these services. It's so funny because as I have consultations, now that I talk more about the other services and now they can see them, every client that I've had always asks me about one of the other services, right? Always. And obviously it's done on purpose, right? It's creating another referral for another service that we offer, right? So, well, we'll see if we can kind of like add that into the mix, and, we can maybe even have other guest speakers, and it'll be specifically for this team. So we can have somewhat of a, insider advantage on, what we're doing, and just bring more value to the overall team as well, right? Like I said, the solar industry is a lot of, I don't want to say bad mouthing, but a lot of beating up on it right now, and just a lot of points of view about it. So to evolve and have other things to offer, talk about, and discuss is going to be vital. So looking forward to that in the near future as well. Yes, Miss Wynn.
Remember, Idris, I said to you when you and I were working on one of my deals, I said I would love to have you as a solar mentor in Maryland. So I'm
Absolutely.
happy that you are now getting your license in Maryland.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
that way, yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'm working on that one, the Connecticut one, and yeah, those two specifically right now. You need a license in Illinois, Milwaukee, and California. But my focus right now is Connecticut and Maryland. So by the end of the year, maybe in January or so, I should have both of those. And yeah, we'll be able to move forward from there. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, any other questions, thoughts, or concerns at all? From anyone?
Yeah, well, the only thing is if you have any input into it, like you said, expanding these calls into some of the other home essential services, I would really like to perhaps have water as, one of the primary ones,
Mhm.
because as a registered nurse,
Mm,
alkaline water, you could really associate it with health and wellness,
mm,
and people are always interested in health and wellness. And as we know, coming into the new year, people's resolutions are always around health and wellness. So I think it's an area that we can capitalize on at a time when people's minds are focused on that as well. So it's just saying, if you have any input into, us expanding our water education um, on these calls.
No, absolutely. And that's a great point. It's funny, as I was thinking about the expansion of this call specifically, and making it more not general, but more home essentials directed instead of solar specific. Water was one of the biggest thoughts, and I was thinking, for instance, like the water products that we have can be purchased as gifts, right? So, for instance, the shower head, I think that's the smallest or the lowest item that we have, but that can be purchased as a gift to someone for Christmas, right? And it could be an introduction. When you think about it, it could be an introduction into the rest of the other services that we have, right? Home security, maybe not so much. Believe it or not, everyone is looking for internet, right? Even the people who already have, right? So once again, letting people know that we have it is vital. And then mobile, right? Once again, I just bought a new phone today. Before I did, reached out to Chris McHenry. So we had a conversation about it. And my point is people are looking for phones every single day, right? Whether they have them or not. So the services that we have are kind of like bar none. And they're everyday services that you'll be able to not, you know, obviously make money on, but more importantly, help people with, right? People don't realize that these things you bring to the table. So you gotta, let people know. And I know that sounds simple, and it sounds easy, but once again, this is like one of the reasons why I made the background like this. So it's in everyone's face all of the time, right? I could show them, and they can actually ask me instead of me, asking them all the time. But yeah, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. There are some other some new home essentials that may be launched sometime soon as well. So looking forward to those. But in addition to that, and you think about this, the data that you get from all of the clients from any service that we have, you can kind of cross market them for all of the different services. So let's say you get someone who's interested in internet. Fantastic. If they have a house and they don't already have solar, well, now you help them with internet, and now you can cross market them to solar, right? If someone has solar, right? Obviously, we focus on the solar, but now you can cross market and say, hey, what phone services do you guys have in the household, right? And now, it's a simple way of cross marketing that makes sense without you kind of like overstepping your boundaries, because once again, these are all things that we offer and we have in place. And it's a way for you to make once again multiple commissions on potentially the same client. Now, when I got started in build, my model that I was looking to follow was JC Rangel's, right? Obviously, he had a lot of success in his prior company, Power. But what I realized then and what I realize now is that JC was able to do over $1 million in sales with just solar. He was able to make over $1 million in a year with just solar. Well, I want you guys to think about this, and they also didn't have the same team compensation plan. So not only do we have more than just solar, but then we also have a team building compensation plan, and then the coded bonus. And then we also have trading, right? With Forex and crypto. And then we also have the real estate, Build Academy that's coming out soon. So and then we also have travel. We have, and it's
And then
ridiculous.
we have, and then we have, and there's more. And
Absolutely.
we're not a gold mine, we are a diamond mine. And we just have
Absolutely.
to really recognize that ourselves and be
Yes.
able to internalize that so that we can then speak that value to the people that we're sharing with. That
Ab-
I had a team meeting the other day, and that's exactly what I said. We have so much value. So it's on us to just learn how to communicate that value and to be excited about it and to be convicted about it and just go out there and mow the lawn, go get all those
Absolutely.
grass blades, man. Just go out there and and go
Absolutely.
get them. Hey, beautiful,
Absolutely.
how are you? Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so
Yes.
absolutely. Once again, you hit it right on the nail, right? So there's so much to offer. Oh, the one thing I would say with that is I would say just pick your lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
When with all of that to offer, know and understand the lane that you're coming with, right? So for instance, for myself, I use myself as an example, right? Obviously, solar, that's great. But now I'm want to shift to more home essentials, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I'll get people in, get clients, recruit, so on and so forth. And then once again, now we'll talk once they're in about the trading, right? That's an
Mm-hmm.
additional extra benefit, right? I may not necessarily lead with with the trading because that may not be my lane, right? So I want
Right.
to make sure I can speak my strength with the client or with the recruit, right? But Ms. Johnson, your lane may be trading, right? So now you
Mm-hmm.
have trading conversations with people to recruit and also to bring on like a trading group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's lane is going to be a little bit different. It's just knowing what your lane is, but then knowing everything else that we have to offer, right? And not leaving any money on the table, right?
Absolutely.
Once again, you guys probably won't see me on the trading calls and everything like that, but I have Omni, right? And I know there's an auto trader, right? I'm very aware of that, right? And we have the auto trader running, rocking and rolling, right? So this is how I benefit from it, right? When I've heard
Mm-hmm.
about the training course and the training platform, that's how I could see myself benefit from it immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not going to be everyone else's lane, but that's my lane, right? I've learned in the past, specifically in network marketing, not to get out of your own lane because then that could force you to get out of your own pocket. That's
Yeah.
not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So once again, focusing on your own lane is very important. So
But I would
definitely,
love that background if you don't mind sharing.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can definitely share that
You got
as
my
well.
email. Just send it on over.
Absolutely. Yeah, just text me and I'll send it over to you again. Like I said, I got a new phone, so I don't have all of the it's still uploading all of the new stuff. But yeah, text me and I'll send it over to you. No problem.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns at all?
Good evening, Mr. Aegis. This is Leslie.
Yes.
Give me tea for my raspy voice. But anyway,
Oh,
I
we're in
appreciate
the same boat.
yes, I appreciate you and what you are doing and have done for the team for the companies. Yeah, my concern was listening at Mr. James Meadows too, for everyone, but as far as the incentives, I'm going away, and
Mhm.
I keep saying to myself, I got some people in the pipeline. They have not submitted me that bill. I said, "Oh, they're going to miss out." And then to hear you say that, regardless of the incentives, solar is still good. And it's
Mm,
probably going to be even better without the federal tax credit or state credit. So that was a relief in that area.
mhm,
And as far as, like I said, there's so many now verticals that we have. And
mhm,
I think I recall Mr. Bean said during a crash camp, he said, just give yourself 12 months, 12 months to focus on one thing. I mean,
mhm,
then you'll be good. So I said, oh, yes, I need to focus upon, I'm going to trade, you know, um, focus on doing it 12 months, even though I'm aware of other services that I can also provide too. And as you were
mhm,
speaking, about people need all different type of services. Like for instance, as I was traveling today, I saw this new mobile home being put up. So I
mm,
said, "Oh man, they can't get sold." But guess what? I said, "Hey, you can go and offer them the ADT system. You can talk
mhm,
about rain H2O. You can talk about
mhm.
rain H2O." I said, "Yes, yes." So that's my focus. Now to once the people actually move in, just to go and greet them, get to know them first, build a relationship, and then later offer some of our services. That's see what they want, listen to see what they want, and then I'll be able to be of service to them in that area. So thank you for allowing me to share, Mr. Idris.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's all, just to add on to what you said, it's all about being well-rounded and knowing all of the things that we have. When I look at a client now, I don't look at them just for solar. I look at them for the potential of any of the services that we have. And not only that, but anyone that they can refer for any of the services that we have, right? So that will continue to grow the network. Let me give you guys an example, right? I was in the AT&T store earlier today as I got my new phone, and I'm speaking to the rep who was helping me out. And, she was basically telling me that she's been in sales for about 3 years. So I'm like, oh, we actually have an internet division and a mobile division as well. So I basically prospected her, asked her if she would be interested in that. And now she's looking to come on, obviously take a look at the presentation, but also come on potentially as a builder as well. So she can offer mobile and internet services, not just in Brooklyn, but all over the country, right? So once again, just having that division allowed me to kind of speak her language, to talk about something that she's interested in as a recruit, right? So it's just knowing what we have available and being able to once again speak their language, speak their prospects' language to, engage them and what might interest them. Last or another thing I wanted to mention is like I'm very happy and impressed. Well, not let me not say impressed, but very happy about the growth and the evolution of Build, right? Because how many people are familiar with Rich Dad Poor Dad and the cash flow quadrant, right? So if you're familiar with the cash flow quadrant, I want you to think about this. Obviously, most people have like their job, right? So they're 9 to 5, what they do from the 9 to 5. But referring people, homeowners for whether it's solar, water, security, internet, or closing those deals on your own, that is literally the S quadrant, right? So it's kind of like self-employed where you're selling and you're making a commission back, right? But in addition to that, the B quadrant is where we can actually build a team, right? Grow an organization, right? 500 people plus. So you can do that here and build. But in addition to that, with the trading aspect and an investing aspect, we actually have the I quadrant as well. So build kind of fills the entire rest of that quadrant out, right? The S, the B, and the I, right? Now, in my experience in network marketing, I haven't really seen a business that fills out the rest of the quadrants, right? Which means that you'll be able to bring people, recruit people in, and literally have them fit into the area that makes sense for them. You're going to see people come in who just want to build a team, right? We have that quadrant for them. You're going to see people who just want to sell. You have that quadrant for them. And then you're going to see people who just want to trade and invest. And we also have that quadrant for them as well. So as Build continues to grow and evolve, we're growing into literally the perfect network marketing business that literally can speak and reach to each and every type of person looking for an additional opportunity or potentially making it a full-time opportunity for themselves as well. So completely in love with that concept. And yes, I can't wait to just continue to build and help as many more people and families as possible. So with that being said, just ask one more time, is there any other questions, concerns, or thoughts from anyone else before we close out? All right, all right, all right. I think we're
Thank you
all
so much. Thank you so much, Idris. I know that, we all appreciate your time and we know how valuable it is. And everybody has a different way of getting information. Even like on the Myers-Briggs, we have our different, ways of gathering information and how that impacts us. So this has been a very valuable, even though we were small and intimate, it was very valuable to be here this evening to receive your wisdom and figure out how best to what I'm going to even focus on in terms of the growth that I see in the business and where I can grow as well. And, today earlier I was talking to one of my classmates from college, and she asked me, well, what is it that you're doing? And I told her I'm working in higher education, and I also told her about my home-based business. And I was like, yeah, we do, I'm a home essentials travel trade and tech broker. I just
Mm.
like had that. So it just, instead of going through all of the things that we all have to offer, just categorizing them. And so it was like, oh yeah, that's a nice design for your business card.
Mm.
Now that I can
Absolutely.
define myself, like I think part of it was that as a company, Build was looking for its identity.
Hmm.
And so yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Once again, with that, I would say in build finding its identity, you as a independent business owner, uh, we all need to find our own individual identity as well, right? And that is going to be whatever that focus is of yours, right? You have everything to offer, but whatever that focus is, whatever, you're excited about is what you'll initially start with, I would say. And then once people get in, you can open up the coat and let everybody know what you have, so absolutely.
What was that statement again, Miss Carla? Say what you said again.
Oh, home essentials travel trade and tech broker.
Homicide travel. Okay, okay. I love
Because
it.
it's like, because it's the categorization. So then that way I don't have to say, well, I do solar, I do water, I do,
Right.
you know, the tech is the Zeta box, right? So that's the tech. And when you're trying to explain it, it gets complicated and people really don't want to hear all of that. So
Home essential. Home
home essentials,
essentials.
travel
Tra-
trade, travel trade and tech.
Travel, trade, and tech. Got you.
Right, the three T's. Because
Okay.
Mr. Bean talked about the three T's, right? When he talked about when he opened up the international market in Africa for Evans. He talked mainly about the three T's. So that's the travel, trade, and tech. That's more for the international market as well as the domestic market.
Nice.
Yeah. So the home essential is primarily for the domestic market in the States.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, if you don't mind, Miss Wen, if you do you mind typing that in the group, in the chat, I should say. So
Which
with the
chat?
home
This chat.
essentials travel, trade, and tech, just so everyone can see it and they
Sure.
can have
Okay.
that available. But yes, and you can copy that and put it in your notes and you know figure out how you want to market yourself with that as well. Because yeah, I know it could be a little it could. All right, all right, all right. So yes, once again, appreciate everyone jumping on. Appreciate everyone being a part of this training. As mentioned, we'll try to move forward in the future with home essentials training specifically. So we'll be adding some other trainings from some of the other areas just for this team and this group specifically. Always giving us, competitive edge overall. But appreciate that. Obviously, as we all know, we have the Millionaire Mentorship Call taking place in an hour with Mr. Pacheco. So I'm sure he's going to be fired up with some huge, great announcements and just some great information for us all. So look forward to seeing you all on that call and hope everyone has a great night as well. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great night.
Good night.